Okay, first of all, I want to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to talk here. It's an honor and a privilege. So I'm going to talk to you about remodeling topological streams perturbatively and non-perturbatively, and most of this work is based on joint collaborations. So the work on perturbative aspects has been done in collaboration with Vincent Bouchard, Albrecht Klemm, and Sara Pasquetti in these papers. And the non-perturbative aspects have been done in collaboration with Ricardo Schiappa, Marlene Weiss, and also by myself. And many of the ideas I will present were already present in this preprint. So, as Johannes was explaining to us, the topological string has been regarded very often as a very useful toy model for the full string theory. I would be more precise that would say that in terms of complexity, topological strings are in a sense an intermediate stage between non-critical strings and the full superstring theory. Still, topological strings, as you probably have also guessed from Johannes' talk, are highly non-trivial. So, for example, you consider the A model on a Calabi-Yau threefold, the topological string amplitudes encodes an enormous amount of geometric information. For example, the closest string amplitudes at fixed genus G are obtained by summing over all possible Worlsed instantons, holomorphic Worlsed instantons, at fixed genus G by summing over all possible degrees. Now, if you go to the open case and you consider topological string amplitudes at genus G and with H boundaries, you have to sum now over Worlsed instantons with boundaries ending on D-branes in the target Calabi-Yau, and you sum now over all possible degrees, and if you have open moduli, you sum over all possible winding numbers of the boundaries ending on the D-branes. So the P1 up to PH here are the open string moduli. So this is an enormous amount of information. It's a highly non-trivial geometric problem that you can reformulate in terms of Gromov-Witten theory, which is a very tough theory. So especially if you are a physicist, your goal would be, as Kontsevich put recently in a talk, to compute it all at once, all these sum over degrees and winding numbers, and also algebraically. Of course, we have a very nice example of how to do that, which is in the context of non-critical strings, which you can solve completely in this way. I mean, you can solve it all at once and also algebraically in terms of matrix models or equivalently in terms of integrable systems. So this has been the strategy that people have pursued for non-critical strings, which you can also regard as minimum n equal to strings coupled to gravity. So it's a simple example of topological string theory as well. Now, when you go to topological strings on generic Calabi-Yau threefolds, you don't use this, in principle, you don't use this approach in terms of matrix non-integral systems, but you rather use mirror symmetry and the type B model. So this is, in a sense, also an algebraic approach, and you also compute all at once in degree, unfortunately not in genus. So this approach has been extremely effective for computing genus 0 sphere amplitudes and disk amplitudes. And this algebraic aspect of the solution is encoded in the fact that you can just solve it by using differential equations of the Picard-Fuchs type. So this is a well-known story at genus 0 and also for disks. And of course, you solve it all at once in degree, but not in genus. So what happens when you try to go to higher genus? Well, as also Johannes was explaining to us, there is a generalization of mirror symmetry and the type 2B model to higher genus involving the holomorphic anomaly equations. So again, I will repeat something that has just been said. This holomorphic anomaly equation tells you that the topological string amplitudes are not really holomorphic in the moduli, they have an anti-holomorphic dependence. But this anti-holomorphic dependence, you can compute it quite explicitly, and it's a complicated functional of topological string amplitudes with lower general number of poles, and this opens the way to a recursive solution of these equations. These equations have been formulated in various situations by various people. You can solve them recursively in many situations, and this gives you an extremely powerful computational tool, which is actually quite general, works for general Calabi-Yau manifolds, but is not conclusive due to the lack of boundary conditions. I mean, you have here some differential equation if you want, and any addition of a holomorphic, purely holomorphic function to this term here will give you the same result, and this is what is called the holomorphic ambiguity. So this is not really the full solution because of this lack of boundary conditions, but fortunately in some cases you can provide these boundary conditions. And last string conference, Albrecht Klemm was actually advocating in local models the gap conditions that he discovered with MuSig1, which are quite useful in some special situations. Now, given this situation, you could try to use other strategies to solve the topological string. So what I'm going to explain you today is another strategy which has the virtue that gives you a very complete solution, but of course has the drawback that is only valid on certain vectors. So this other strategy, for me, the inspiration came mostly from the work of Dijkgraaf and Baffa relating these to matrix models. So in 2002, Dijkgraaf and Baffa found a description of type B topological strings on certain Calabi-Yau backgrounds in terms of large chain matrix models. So what they considered was this kind of Calabi-Yau background, which is given by this kind of equation on C4. This equation is non-trivial information, is encoded in a potential function, V of x, and a deformation f of x. And what Dijkgraaf and Baffa shown through a geometric transition argument is that type B topological string amplitudes on this Calabi-Yau geometry can be obtained by the Larchen expansion of an Hermitian matrix model where the potential appears as the potential of the matrix model and the deformation function is related to your choice of vacuum, of multi-cut vacuum in this Hermitian matrix model. So this gives a full solution of topological string theory on these kind of backgrounds. And they also gave a very nice example of emergent space-time geometry because they show that if you consider the master field, the Larchen solution for the master field of this matrix model is actually, you can actually encode it in a spectral curve which has exactly this form. This spectral curve is of course related to the density of eigenvalues of the matrix model, and this spectral curve that appears as the master field describing this model is nothing but the non-trivial part of the Calabi-Yau geometry you started with. Now, so this was very nice, and for me, one very important moral of this approach is that this algebraic approach of the B model and mirror symmetry can actually be reformulated and generalized to higher genus in terms of matrix models. In particular, if you just look at the genus zero solution of the matrix model, you can see that it agrees exactly with the special geometry solution typical of type B in a Calabi-Yau threefold. So reduced to this particular background. So this was enough, and it was extremely successful for engineering supersymmetric gauge theories, but of course these backgrounds are quite special, and in particular they have no mirrors. I mean, there is only type B model here, there is no type A model mirror to this one. So one very interesting idea would be to try to push this kind of equivalence between the type B model and topological, topological string theory and matrix models to more general backgrounds. So what other backgrounds could you consider? Well, especially interesting, of course, because you will have a solution, are toric Calabi-Yau manifolds. But let me remind you that toric Calabi-Yau manifolds are also interesting because they already display a lot of interesting phenomena. First of all, they have a very rich enumerative content. This is one of the examples where you can really do non-trivial Gromov-Witten theory, for example, and you can solve it quite precisely. Now, on top of that, they also have non-trivial moduli spaces, and in particular, you can find already for toric Calabi-Yau manifolds very interesting, say, orbifold points in their moduli spaces. Another very interesting aspect of these backgrounds is that for some of them, you have large chain gauge theory duals in the spirit of ADS-CFT correspondence, where the gauge theory is actually Chern-Simons topological gauge theory. You can also use these backgrounds to engineer n=2 gauge theories, and in particular, you can compute Seiberg-Witten-Islington expansions using these models. And finally, and very important for us, these toric Calabi-Yau manifolds have mirrors which are encoded by algebraic curves. So here I give you a very simple example. This is the famous local P2 model, which is given by the anticanonical bundle over P2. So the toric diagram is typically represented by this triangle with these three legs. And the mirror of this manifold, you can heuristically construct it by thickening this diagram and obtaining in this way a Riemann surface of genus 1 with 3 punctures at infinity, which can be very explicitly described by an algebraic curve where y and x and c star times c star variables, and this parameter here is just the complex parameter of this genus 1 curve. Now, these Calabi-Yau backgrounds, you can also incorporate a very special type of A-branes that I will call toric branes. These were studied by Harvey and Lawson and mostly by Aganaitich and Baffa. These are branes which, Lagrangian branes which have the topology of C times S1, and they also have very well-known mirrors. When you map them to the Riemann surface that describes the mirror, they just map to points in the Riemann surface. So these points in the Riemann surface, you can regard them as the open moduli of these branes. So these are the backgrounds that I would like to consider. And the question is, how do you remodel the B model on these backgrounds? Well, so the first ingredient we need is a fact about algebraic curves. And this fact is the following. Given any algebraic curve, one can define through explicit formulae in terms of residues an infinite set of amplitudes, FGH and FG, where I use the same notation that I use for topological string amplitudes, which, where here T relates to the complex, the complex modular algebraic curve, and P1 up to PH are parameterized coordinates of this algebraic curve. And this construction, I will now give you the motivation, but just take as a fact that once you are given this algebraic curve, you can construct these amplitudes. This was started in work by Ambior and collaborators, refined by Gernot Ackermann, and finally taken to completion by Bertrand Guinard and collaborators. So this is just a definition of this set of amplitudes given any algebraic curve. The definition is completely explicit, is recursive, and you can express it diagrammatically in terms of graphs like this, in the sense that adding, for example, an extra puncture, an extra variable for this amplitude here, you can reduce you can compute this amplitude in terms of lower G and H amplitudes by a completely explicit procedure. So I'm not going to give you the details of this procedure, but this procedure exists. And what is this, the connection to matrix model? Well, the connection is very clear. When the algebraic curve is the spectral curve of matrix model, I mean the master field solution of matrix model, then these amplitudes, FGH and FG, are exactly the solutions to the loop equations of this matrix model and give you the full and explicit 1/n expansion of these amplitudes. So, in particular, the FG of T appear when you do the large n expansion of the partition of the free energy of the matrix model in this way, and the FGH functions depending on TP1 up to PH obtained when you do the 1/n expansion of the connected correlation functions associated to the Hermitian matrix model, with this algebraic curve being the spectral curve. Now, another very beautiful aspect of this formalism is that the amplitudes that you compute in this way, these are amplitudes defined geometrically in terms of this spectral curve, sometimes have a very nice interpretation in pure geometric terms. So, for example, you take the amplitude for genus 0 and with two holes, which depends now on these two variables P1 and P2, which are parameterized coordinates on the curve, then this turns out to be the Berman kernel associated to the algebraic curve, which is a very natural geometric object. So this is the first piece of information that I will use, and the question is how you use this piece of information to remodel the B model. Well, let's now consider the topological type B string on the mirror of a toric Calabi-Yau 3-4 in the presence of toric D-branes. Now we know that these mirrors are given precisely by algebraic curves, as I was explaining before for this particular example of local P2, and these toric D-branes will be represented by points in this algebraic curve. Now the conjecture which was made in this work is that the topological string amplitudes of the B model are given for all G and H by the matrix model-like residue amplitudes that I just defined before on the mirror curve. So you see that in this way you reformulate the computation of these topological string amplitudes just in terms of geometric data of this mirror curve. Now, of course, there are two clarifications that I want to do here. The first one is that this kind of conjecture is, of course, true for the Calabi-Yau backgrounds considered by Dijkgraaf and Baffa, and this is just essentially by construction of the geometric transition that they did. Now, the second clarification here is that I don't need really an explicit matrix model realization for computing these amplitudes, because knowledge of the algebraic curve is enough to compute these kind of amplitudes. I mean, the construction I was telling you before is only based on data of the algebraic curve. When this curve is the spectral curve of a matrix model, then you recover a 1/n expansion. But if you give me any algebraic curve, I will be able to compute these amplitudes. And the claim here is that I give you the mirror curve to any toric Calabi-Yau manifold. These kind of amplitudes defined in terms of this residue calculus are the topological B model amplitudes. Now, how can you motivate this kind of conjecture? Well, there is a very nice argument which was actually part of the motivation for this conjecture and was actually explicitly spelled out by Dijkgraaf and Baffa in a recent paper. And it is that these kind of residue amplitudes that you compute on the algebraic curve, you can also realize them as amplitudes for a theory of a chiral boson on this algebraic curve. And this theory of a chiral boson is just the Kodaira-Spencer theory in the non-compact Calabi-Yau case. So the Kodaira-Spencer theory is actually the string field theory of the B model, and this gives a very natural rationale why these amplitudes should actually agree with topological string amplitudes. Another piece of evidence is that you can show that these amplitudes, although they are holomorphic, they can be anti-holomorphically completed, and the resulting amplitudes solve the holomorphic anomaly equations of BCOB. So this is the conjecture, this is the remodeling of the V model, and now I will show you three examples which are also tests of the conjecture in three different situations. So three consequences of this. Well, the first application or test of this conjecture is that from this you get a general mirror theorem for all Torri-Calabi-Yau threefolds and all open and closed topological string amplitudes involving toric difference. And this is simply because we can count now the worldsheet instantons, this is the original definition of these A-model amplitudes, by just expanding these matrix model-like amplitudes at large radius in the moduli space. So imagine that you want, for example, to compute annuli amplitudes. So you want to count worldsheet instantons with the topology of an annulus in a given Torri-Calabi-Yau threefold. So you will have this kind of function. As I was explaining before, this is a sum over all possible worldsheet instantons with the topology of an annulus interpolating between two difference. Well, now we know what this function is. If you go to the mirror side, this is just the Berman kernel on the mirror curve. And this is a quantity that you know exactly in terms of the complex moduli and in terms of the open model. So you have an exact expression, and when you span it around the large radius point, you will recover all this counting of worldsheet instantons on your face. Now, in particular, one can also deduce that the amplitudes of topological string theory satisfy recursion relations which are modeled on the loop equations of a matrix model. And this kind of argument can be even applied, this is a mathematical application, this can be even applied to very classical enumerative objects like Hurwitz numbers. Because Hurwitz numbers turn out to be limits, special limits of topological string theory on special Tori backgrounds, so you can even get new recursion relations for very classical enumerative objects like Hurwitz theory. Now, another application I will present is the following. Now, I told you that these expressions for open topological string amplitudes that they in this way are exact in the closed model and the open model, so they are exact in alpha prime. And this was previously unavailable. This is one new aspect of this formalism. And this means that we can then prove a small distance in Torri-Calabi-Yau manifolds, but also in the background of the branes. So, for example, we will be able to compute correlation functions at orbifold points involving not only twist fields, not only involving the closed sectors, but also involving the open sector in terms of, which is including these correlation functions through boundary preserving operators. So let me give you, again, a very simple example based on local P2. Local P2 is this geometry that I was showing you before. It has a large radius point where, for example, an annulus amplitude will have a very nice geometric interpretation in terms of summing over open worldsheet instantons. But if you now go to the orbifold point of this moduli space, then local P2, you have to think about it as C3 mod Z3, and of course the annulus amplitude won't have a nice geometric interpretation. You should rather think about it as a generating function for correlation functions in the orbifold n equal to superconformal field theory coupled to gravity at this point. So this will be a generating functional for correlation functions in the orbifold theory involving arbitrary powers of the twist operator and arbitrary powers, if you are in this annulus situation, of two boundary preserving operators. Now, since we have an exact expression for this amplitude near the large radius point, we can actually go to the small radius point, and after doing an analytic continuation plus a non-trivial modular transformation, we get actually a generating function for all these kind of correlation functions. Now, this involves a non-trivial modular transformation. This is an important aspect of this formalism. The amplitudes are modular, and when you go from one point to the other, you have to actually do modular transformations. This was already noticed in the closed string case by Aganagic, Bouchard, and Clem. And one of the nice aspects of this open case is that the results that you get can be tested against explicit calculations. And this is because these orbifold correlation functions can be reinterpreted mathematically in terms of objects which have not been very much studied, but are called open orbifold Gromov-Witten invariants. And recently Renzo Cavalieri has computed using open orbifold Gromov-Witten theory, and we have found complete agreement with this procedure. So this is on a sound basis. Now let me give you yet another application which is similar but it has a different flavor. Now I'm going to consider now these Torri-Calabi-Yau backgrounds which have large n Chern-Simons duals. Now when you are in one of these backgrounds with large n Chern-Simons duals, the orbifold point of the moduli space of the Calabi-Yau corresponds actually to the perturbative gauge theory point in the Chern-Simons theory. And of course open topological string amplitudes correspond to webs of Wilson loops in the large n Chern-Simons theory. Now, one example, the most canonical example of this duality is the so-called local FP geometries. These are dual to Chern-Simons theory on a lens space obtained by quotienting S3 by the discrete groups Fp. And these Calabi-Yau manifolds turn out to have P Keller parameters, and the Keller parameters are dual to the partial Topf parameters that you obtain in this Chern-Simons theory. In order to obtain P Topf parameters, you have to put yourself on an instanton background in Chern-Simons theory, which scales the Grace group to P factors, and each of the Topf couplings in its factors gives you one Keller parameter here. Now, if you go to very strong coupling, which is a very strong Topf coupling, which is this geometric language, is the large radius point of the Calabi-Yau, of course the open topological string amplitudes will be obtained by summing over wall-sheet instantons. Actually, you can label these open topological string amplitudes in terms of representations of UN, and the kind of structure you find here is again a sum over wall-sheet instantons. Now, if you now go to weak Topf coupling, again, since we have an exact expression for this, we can actually do again an analytic continuation and a non-trivial modular transformation for these open string amplitudes, and what we obtain is exactly the perturbative gauge-theory expansion of this Wilson loop around the perturbative point of Chern-Simons theory. So this is a very nice example of a strong weak Topf coupling interpolations. We can really go from strong Topf coupling to weak Topf coupling, but the additional piece of information here is that you have to do really a non-trivial modular transformation in order to implement this interpolation. So this ends the kind of perturbative type of examples that I want to explain. And now I want to discuss, now that we have an understanding, if you want, of all possible perturbative amplitudes in these backgrounds, I would like to try to extract some information about non-perturbative effects. So to do that, let me review very briefly non-perturbative effects in matrix models. Now, the partition function of a matrix model has actually non-perturbative corrections, which have been identified a long time ago in terms of eigenvalue tunneling, or equality in terms of a sum over all filling fractions. So let me give you a very simple example of this. Imagine that you take an Hermitian matrix model with a cubic potential. The perturbative vacuum of this theory, you can regard it as the vacuum in which you put all the n eigenvalues of this matrix model around the minimum of the potential. And then an L instanton sector in this matrix model will be obtained when you tunnel IL eigenvalues from this minimum to this relative maximum. So you do the expansion around this background of the matrix model, you will be doing an expansion around the L instanton sector of the matrix model. Now, the partition function of the matrix model will be correspondingly given by the perturbative partition function, which is the one-cut partition function for the Q matrix model, and then you will have an infinite sum of instanton corrections which are suppressed exponentially. They are suppressed with a factor which I will call the space-time instanton action, which depends on the Topf coupling of the matrix model and on the couplings of the matrix model. Then you will have the expansion of the matrix integral around this configuration, and on top of that you have also a constant here, which is called the non-perturbative ambiguity, and it corresponds to a choice of contour in the matrix integral. François David actually pointed out long ago that this is actually playing the role of a theta angle in this theory. Now, these kind of effects have been much studied in the double scaling limit of matrix model, and there they become space-time instantons of non-critical strings, and they are due to homological branes. Now, we have studied them in the full matrix model, especially in the one-cut case, and in particular, it turns out that you can compute these non-perturbative effects using, again, only data of the spectral curve of the matrix model. You don't have to give me all the information about the matrix model. Just to compute this instanton action and to compute the full perturbative expansion, you only need to have data of the spectral curve. What is not fixed for you by the spectral curve is the non-perturbative ambiguity. But the rest of the data are actually fixed just by the spectral curve. Now, one very nice aspect of these non-perturbative effects in topological string theory is that they are testable in a sense through the connection between instantons of large order behavior. So it turns out that these kind of instantons control the large order behavior of the 1/n expansion in a matrix model. So if you consider the free energy at genus G of a matrix model for large genus, it will actually diverge like 2G factorial, and the next to leading correction to this behavior is going to be encoded in the instanton action controlling these non-perturbative effects. Now, this is very interesting because it gives you non-trivial information on the analytic structure of the total free energy as a function of the string coupling or the 1/n coupling. And in particular, it gives you the location of the singularities in the Borel plane. The instanton action that is computed here, when you go to the Borel plane of the total free energy, will actually give you the positions of the poles. The poles will be positive integer multiples of this space-time instanton action. Now, notice that here I'm in the full matrix model, and in particular, this instanton action will depend on these couplings, and depending on the value of the couplings here, you will have the location of the poles in one place or another. Now, since we have a matrix model-like description of these topological strings on toric-Calabi-Yau threefolds and on their mirrors in terms of a spectral mirror curve, one can think that maybe one can use this kind of formulas to explicitly compute non-perturbative effects of this type in some toric backgrounds. So morally, the idea is that these non-perturbative effects should correspond to some kind of generalization of thermological branes to toric-Calabi-Yau threefolds. Now, this is still something that we are trying to figure out, but there are a few examples where we can make some kind of precise statements. So in particular, as I said, we have really control on models which have one cut, and then we have very explicit expressions for these non-perturbative effects in terms of that of the spectral curve. So we can actually compute in some toric-Calabi-Yau backgrounds these non-perturbative effects as well as the perturbative amplitudes. So in particular, there are these kind of toric-Calabi-Yau models, which I call local curves, are given by a sum of two line bundles over P1. Here Pi will take it bigger than 2. And in this kind of Calabi-Yau manifolds, the interesting thing is that the spectral curve is a pinch one-cut curve. And then we can have computed both the perturbative amplitudes and the non-perturbative effects. And we have actually been able to verify that the instanton effects also control the large-order behavior of the topological string perturbation theory in these backgrounds. Actually, this is a very nice piece of numerical analysis, which is highly non-trivial from my point of view. So what you do is the following. Remember, from this kind of behavior, you can deduce very easily that if you form this quotient here, and you form this sequence which depends on G, and notice that these are the perturbative topological string amplitudes, this is the genus expansion of the topological string. If you form these sequences here, you can see that from the previous large order behavior, this should actually converge to the given number for a fixed T, which is the instanton, space-time instanton action. So the study of the large genus behavior of this quantity should give you information of the instanton action of the theory. Now, when you plot this sequence here, you get something which converges very slowly, but you can actually enhance the convergence of this sequence by using a numerical techniques, doing what is called Richardson transforms. And you see that after these numerical transforms essentially remove the tails of the asymptotics, and you can see that after doing these transforms, you actually, the sequence actually falls completely on this straight line, and this straight line can be actually be seen to be exactly the instanton action that you compute using this matrix model formulation. So we are pretty confident that these non-perturbative effects are there in the sense that they control the large order behavior of topological string perturbation theory. And this is highly non-trivial because this is a function of T. So you have, for each value of T, you will have such a sequence. Now, from the point of view of type 2 string, these instanton effects actually correspond to domain walls interpolating between D-branes in the V model, and this was already pointed out in diagram and buffer for the kind of backgrounds that we consider. So, do we have another example where we can actually argue that this sum over non-perturbative effects in the matrix model should be also related to topological string theory? Actually, we have, and this is precisely in the models which have Larchen dual. These are the kind of models that I was explaining before that have a Larchen dual in terms of Chern-Simons theory on S3 mod ZP. Now, as I was explaining before, the topological string partition function on this model corresponds to a fixed generic filling fraction of the matrix model. So if you want, you have to fix your instanton both in the matrix model and in the gauge theory in order to recover the topological string partition function. So when you do this kind of matrix model for a fixed background, you get the topological string partition function. Now, this implies in particular the total partition function of the gauge theory, which is actually the natural non-perturbative object, is a sum over all instanton sectors of the gauge theory, and in particular is a sum over all instanton sectors of the matrix model. So, looking at this forces us to include all these sectors. So, if you really believe that the holographic dual to this kind of topological string backgrounds is the Chern-Simons partition function on these length spaces, the total partition function is going to be a sum over all possible instanton backgrounds. And here you really are forced to look at all these instanton configurations if you want to really get the right Larchen dual. Now, this tells you, if you see that when you sum over all backgrounds, each of these backgrounds correspond to topological string partition function. So each topological string partition function corresponds to a fixed background. But once you sum over all backgrounds, in a sense, you should forget about what is the precise background you're expanding around. And this has been suggested as a way to actually get background-independent topological string partition functions. So this is still a little bit speculative, but the moral of this is that you might be able to get background-independent topological string partition functions by summing over all these non-perturbative effects. In a sense, summing over all these non-perturbative effects should actually help you in getting a background-independent topological string partition function. Now, of course, there are abstractions to do that. You have actually make sure that this expression, which is an expression written in the finite N gauge theory, has a well-behaved continuum Larchen limit. But you know, this looks like a way of actually improving our non-perturbative understanding of topological string theory by summing over all these matrix model instantons. Okay, let me actually give you the conclusions and open problems. So I showed you that in the toric case, through this matrix model-like formalism in terms of residue calculus in the spectral curve, you get a generalization of a special geometry to higher genus. Now, of course, the big question is that is it possible to extend this to the compact case? I don't know if this is an accident of the toric case or if this is something which will be a special case of a more general story, but I think it's very intriguing that at least in this case you really have a natural generalization of a special geometry to higher genus, which is completely free of holomorphic ambiguities. Now, we also obtain some precise understanding of non-perturbative effect in some of these toric backgrounds, not all of them, and we are actually working in developing this instanton calculus in more general topological string theories. Now, for example, it would be very interesting to have a worse interpretation of these effects, because what I'm trying to advocate here, in a sense that if you want to understand some non-perturbative aspect of topological string theory, you can do as in the old days, look at the large order behavior of the topological string perturbation theory, and this large order behavior of the topological string perturbation theory should be governed by some non-perturbative effect, and this applies to any Calabi-Yau manifold. So there should be, in a sense, some kind of a special D-brane which is playing the role of homological branes into the gravity. Now again, we should, since we have computed these non-perturbative effects in exponentially suppressed effects in 1 over G string, maybe there should be a type 2 interpretation for these effects, and this is so a full superstring interpretation of these effects, but this is something that we don't know at the moment. And finally, my last observation is that if you are not sure if this instanton set of the matrix model should be included, Larchen duals tell you that you should include it in order to recover the full partition function. And it would be very interesting to see if this procedure allows you to define background-independent topological string partition functions by summing over all non-perturbative sectors. Thank you very much.
Questions or comments?
Yes.
Please.
So you mentioned that the matrix model has a non-perturbative ambiguity corresponding to this inconstant C.
Yes.
That you pointed
Exactly.
out. So I think in the old days when people were studying the double scaling limits, this was a major obstacle to getting a consistent non-perturbative definition, for example, of two-dimensional quantum gravity.
Yeah.
So what is the meaning of this ambiguity in your context, and do you have an interpretation of these constants for the non-perturbative topological string?
Actually, well, you will inherit this non-perturbative ambiguity in many of these models, but in the model with Larchen duals, I actually forgot to mention it here, but I included also, you know, here you will have more than one non-perturbative ambiguity because you have a multi-cut matrix model, but actually, if you compare to a total partition function, this fixes the non-perturbative ambiguity for you. So this is a fix. So when you have a Larchen dual, the non-perturbative ambiguity is completely fixed. So in these models, which have holographic Chern-Simons duals, this ambiguity, non-perturbative ambiguity is fixed. For the other models, I don't know how to fix it. What I'm saying is that even if you don't know, for the other models, even if you don't know this non-perturbative ambiguity, you can still extract non-perturbative information by looking at the rest of the data. It's like you don't know what is the non-perturbative completion of 2D gravity, but you still can compute thermological break amplitudes, right? So this is the analog of that, but I don't have a non-perturbative completion in the most general case. In this case, I would say that this gives a non-perturbative completion.
Are there any further questions or comments? I didn't see, please, yes.
Yeah, so the analogy, you start basically with the matrix model, the word identities, and then you derive these word identities that apply to the closed string, to the large string, and then you abstract it from that, the word identity, as if it was a matrix model, but you didn't need it and you solved it.
Yeah.
It raises the following question. So since this is a good toy model for superstrings, in the superstring we will be interested in the question of if you have a gravitational system or a string system, is there a gauge theory or some microscopic holographic dual? So in this context, if you translate that question, since you kind of went through the circle and came back to the gravity side by itself, one could ask if every Riemann surface you're writing, could it be the spectral curve of some matrix model or some generalized matrix model? First of all, do you have any comment on that? Is there a holographic dual to all the possible things you can write? Because after all, that was the motivation to come up with the answer. That's one question. I have one more, but I will first.
Right. Actually, in some cases, you can actually write a matrix integral in some of the cases where you don't have an obvious matrix model. There was actually a recent work by Eina where he shows that these kind of backgrounds that I was commenting before, even if you, this kind of backgrounds here. So here, in principle, you don't have really a bona fide matrix integral, which is describing this background, but you have a sum over partitions. And in some cases, you can really write a matrix integral, and this is what Einar did, whose Larsen expansion reproduces this. So you might be able to do something like this, but I don't have any kind of good reason apart from technical ones to write this matrix integral.
But is there cases where, so there's no case where there's obstruction of writing a matrix integral, or are you saying is this an obstruction case?
No, I'm saying that in this case you can write.
You can write,
a matrix integral, but I don't know where this is coming from. This is something that you're playing with these over partitions, but I don't have any kind of big principle telling me this is the right non-perturbative.
So all of them could have some matrix integral.
Yeah, they all could have some matrix integral interpretation.
The other question I have is that if usually when you write a field theory like a Lagrangian, it is not true that even if you find all the classical solution, it's given by a sum over these saddle points, and that's very rare. Here, your proposal is that the non-perturbative answer is sum over these saddle points, roughly, if I understand correctly. Yeah. Am I interpreting your?
Yes.
Is that expected even in the Chern-Simon example? Is that an exact statement? That
actually, this is actually an exact. For Chern-Simon's theory, this semi-classical expansion is actually exact. This was one of the results that people obtained from this kind of background. So this gives you the full information.
But then your conjecture is always true, that sum over saddle point is exact.
Yeah, for this kind of background, this is always true, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any further questions or comments? If not, then let's thank Markus again.